5. The Discourse about Cunda. Thus I heard, at one time the Gracious One was walking on walking tour amongst the Mallas with a great community of monks, and arrived at Pava. There the Gracious One dwelt near Pava, in Cunda the smith's mango wood. Cunda the smith heard, the Gracious One, it seems, is walking on walking tour amongst the Mallas with a great community of monks, and has arrived at Pava, and is dwelling near Pava in my mango wood. Then Cunda the smith went to the Gracious One, and after going and worshipping the Gracious One, he sat down on one side. While Cunda the smith sat on one side, the Gracious One instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered him with a Dhamma talk. Then Cunda the smith, having been instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered by the Gracious One with a Dhamma talk, said to the Gracious One, "May the Gracious One consent, Reverend Sir, to me offering him a meal on the morrow, together with a community of monks." The Gracious One consented by maintaining silence. Then Cunda the smith, having understood the Gracious One's consent, after rising from his seat, worshipping and circumambulating the Gracious One, went away. Then with the passing of that night, Cunda the smith, in his own residence, having had excellent comestibles and edibles made ready, and an abundance of tender pork, had the time announced to the Gracious One, saying, "It is time, Reverend Sir, the meal is ready." Then the Gracious One, having dressed in the morning time, after picking up his bowl and robe, together with the community of monks, went to Cunda the smith's residence, and after going, he sat down on the prepared seat. Having sat down, the Gracious One addressed Cunda the smith, saying, "Serve me with the tender pork you have prepared, Cunda, but serve the community of monks with the other comestibles and edibles which have been prepared." "Yes, Reverend Sir," said Cunda the smith, and after replying to the Gracious One, he served the Gracious One with the tender pork that had been prepared, but served the community of monks with the other comestibles and edibles which had been prepared. Then the Gracious One addressed Cunda the smith, saying, "Throw that leftover tender pork into a pit, Cunda, for I do not see, Cunda, in the world with its devas, Mara and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and brahmanas, princes and men, one who, having eaten it, could completely digest it, except for a realized one." "Yes, Reverend Sir," said Cunda the smith, and after replying to the Gracious One, and throwing what was left over of that tender pork into a pit, he went to the Gracious One, and after going and worshipping the Gracious One, he sat down on one side. While sat on one side, the Gracious One, after instructing, rousing, enthusing, and cheering Cunda the smith with a Dhamma talk, having risen from his seat, went away. Then for the Gracious One, after eating Cunda the smith's food, a painful affliction arose, dysentery, and strong feelings occurred, such as end in death. There the Gracious One mindfully, with full awareness, bore those pains without being troubled. Then the Gracious One addressed Venerable Ānanda, saying, "Come, Ānanda, let us go to Kusinara." "Yes, Reverend Sir," Venerable Ānanda replied to the Gracious One. "Having eaten Cunda the smith's food, so I have heard, the firm one experienced a very strong affliction such as ends in death. For the teacher who had eaten tender pork, a very strong sickness arose. While still purging, the Gracious One said, 'I will go to the city of Kusinara.' Then the Gracious One, having gone down from the road, went to the root of a certain tree, and after going he addressed Venerable Ānanda, saying, 'Come now, Ānanda, prepare the outer robe folded in four for me. I am weary, Ānanda, and will sit down.' 'Yes, Reverend Sir,' said Venerable Ānanda, and after replying to the Gracious One, he prepared the outer robe folded in four, and the Gracious One sat down on the prepared seat. While sat, the Gracious One addressed Venerable Ānanda, saying, "Come now, Ānanda, bring drinking water. I am thirsty, Ānanda, and will drink." After that was said, Venerable Ānanda said this to the Gracious One: "Just now, Reverend Sir, 500 wagons have passed by, and the little water that flows, having been churned by the wheels, is stirred up and disturbed. The Cunda river is not far away, with transparent water, agreeable water, cool water, pure water, with beautiful banks, a delightful place. There the Gracious One can drink drinking water and can cool his limbs." For a second time the Gracious One addressed Venerable Ānanda, saying, "Come now, Ānanda, bring drinking water. I am thirsty, Ānanda, and will drink." For a second time Venerable Ānanda said this to the Gracious One: "Just now, Reverend Sir, 500 wagons have passed by, and the little water that flows, having been churned by the wheels, is stirred up and disturbed. The Cunda river is not far away, with transparent water, agreeable water, cool water, pure water, with beautiful banks, a delightful place. There the Gracious One can drink drinking water and can cool his limbs." For a third time the Gracious One addressed Venerable Ānanda, saying, "Come now, Ānanda, bring drinking water. I am thirsty, Ānanda, and will drink." "Yes, Reverend Sir," said Venerable Ānanda, and after replying to the Gracious One and taking the bowl, he went to the river. Then that little river that was flowing, which had been churned by the wheels and was stirred up and disturbed as Venerable Ānanda was going, flowed transparent, clear and undisturbed. Then it occurred to Venerable Ānanda, "Surely it is wonderful, friend, surely it is marvellous, friend, the realized one's great power and great majesty, in that little river that is flowing, which has been churned by wheels and is stirred up and disturbed, as I was going, flowed transparent, clear and undisturbed." After taking a bowl of drinking water, he went to the Gracious One, and after going, he said this to the Gracious One: "It is wonderful, Reverend Sir, it is marvellous, Reverend Sir, the realized one's great power and great majesty, in that little river that is flowing, which has been churned by wheels and is stirred up and disturbed, as I was going, flowed transparent, clear and undisturbed. Please drink the drinking water, Gracious One. Please drink the drinking water, Fortunate One." Then the Gracious One drank the drinking water. Then the Gracious One, with a great community of monks, went to the river Cunda, and after going and entering into the river Cunda, bathing and drinking and coming back out, went to the mango wood, and after going he addressed Venerable Cundaka, saying, "Come now, Cundaka, prepare the outer robe folded in four for me. I am weary, Cundaka, and will lie down." "Yes, Reverend Sir," said Venerable Cundaka, and after replying to the Gracious One, he prepared the outer robe folded in four. Then the Gracious One lay down on his right side in the lion's posture, after placing one foot on top of the other, mindfully, with full awareness, having applied his mind to the thought of rising. And Venerable Cundaka sat down right there in front of the Gracious One. The awakened one, having gone to the little river Cunda, which had water that was transparent, pleasant and clear, the teacher, very weary, entered the river. The realized one, who is unmatched here in the world. After washing and drinking, the teacher came out, and in the middle of the group of monks at the front, the teacher, the Gracious One, having taught the Dhamma here, the great sage went to the mango wood. He addressed the monk called Cundaka, saying, "Spread out the lying robe folded in four for me." Chunda, urged by the one with developed mind, very quickly spread the robe folded in four. The teacher, very weary, lay down, with Cunda sat right there at the front. Then the Gracious One addressed Venerable Ānanda, saying, "It may be, Ānanda, that someone might cause remorse for the smith Cunda, saying, 'There is no gain for you, friend Cunda. It is a poor gain for you, friend Cunda, in that the realized one, after eating his last alms food from you, attained complete emancipation.' If there is remorse for Cunda the smith, Ānanda, drive it out in this way, saying, 'There is a gain for you, friend Cunda. It is a good gain for you, friend Cunda, in that the realized one, after eating his last alms food from you, attained complete emancipation.' I heard this face to face with the Gracious One, friend Cunda. I learned it face to face. There are these two alms food which have the same excellent fruit, have the same excellent result. That is a greater fruit, a greater result than other alms food. Which two? That alms food which, after eating, the realized one awakens to the unsurpassed perfect awakening, and that alms food which, after eating, the realized one attains complete emancipation in the emancipation element which has no basis for attachment remaining. These are the two alms food which have the same fruit, that is, a greater fruit, a greater result than other alms food. Friend Cunda the smith has accumulated a good deed that is conducive to long life. Friend Cunda the smith has accumulated a good deed that is conducive to beauty. Friend Cunda the smith has accumulated a good deed that is conducive to happiness. Friend Cunda the smith has accumulated a good deed that is conducive to fame. Friend Cunda the smith has accumulated a good deed that is conducive to heaven. Friend Cunda the smith has accumulated a good deed that is conducive to sovereignty. If there is remorse for Cunda the smith, Ānanda, you should drive it out in this way." Then the Gracious One, having understood the significance of it, on that occasion uttered this exalted utterance: "For the one who gives, merit is increased. From restraint, hatred is not accumulated. The skillful one gives up what is bad. Through the destruction of passion, hatred and delusion, he is emancipated."